Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing why your dumper is ice cold. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing why your dumper is ice cold. So if you have been dumped, you might be shocked of how cold your ex now seems to be. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 reasons why your dumper suddenly becomes ice cold after ending your relationship. So let's get straight into this. And point number 1 is it's the only way they can cope. So although as a dumpee you probably don't think this right now, most dumpers do not want to hurt you. Most dumpers do not want to hurt their dumpees. And unfortunately for the dumpee, this decision has only been taken because your now ex, the dumper, is feeling that to have a fulfilling life journey, they need to end this relationship. So this isn't what the dumpee wants to hear on that regard. But at least it is some consolation to hear that most dumpers don't want to hurt their dumpee. So even if you think, my ex deliberately hurt me, they're treating me so badly, now they're ice cold. The reality is that it's very unlikely your ex, the dumper, wants to hurt you like this. The more likely reality is that when they lost romantic emotional attraction for you, for whatever reason that may have been, they was no longer feeling fulfilled in this relationship. They were not feeling satisfied. And they didn't believe that taking their journey forward would be best suited to be in this relationship. So they needed to end the relationship. And therefore, once they decided to end this connection, they had to do what they had to do. And the only way a lot of dumpers can cope is if they become distant, if they become ice cold. And the reason that they feel this way is because they don't want to hurt you. They don't want to see the pain in your eyes. They don't want to hear the pain in your voice. They don't want to read the pain in your words. And if somebody does not want to see, feel, or hear this pain, what are they going to do? They're going to become distant, they're going to become cold. And that is one of the most likely reasons why your ex, the dumper, has now become ice cold. They've ended the relationship and they need to distance themselves from the situation because, as they see it, this was a horrible scenario for them as well. Now, of course, as a dumpee, you're thinking, well, this is a lot worse for me than you. I don't even want this relationship to end. You broke my heart. But for your dumper, it was likely a big challenge as well. For your dumper, it was likely a very bad day for them, maybe even the worst day of their life. They probably thought they had to do this, but they didn't want to do this. And that is why you see so many dumpers becoming ice cold soon after a breakup takes place, because it's the only way they can cope. The only way they can cope is to try to almost imagine that all of this carnage, all of this pain, all of this suffering isn't taking place, because they know what they've got to do to live a satisfying life in their opinion. Now that might change. If somebody enters a relationship, it doesn't mean they aren't ever going to consider reconnecting. If you want more support, if you want to understand what your ex might be thinking, if you want unique assistance on your scenario, you may want to consider my audio coaching service where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique problem, situation, relationship and breakup. If you want to speak with me one-on-one via audio coaching, check out my website, www.dateme.tips, for more details of how to do this and how I can become your coach and your teammate on your journey. But when we focus on the dumper journey during this time, often the only way they can get through this, often the only way they can feel that they can move forward on this particular route is to become ice cold, is to become distant. And like I said, it doesn't mean they can't change their mind, but right now, that is what they need to do. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about why your dumper is ice cold. And point number 2 is their head has been turned. So another possibility, another reason you might say as for why a dumper can become ice cold after a breakup is because their head has been turned. And this means their head has been turned by something they now know, somebody they have now got to know. So let's look at these 2 possibilities in turn for point number 2. One possibility for point number 2 of their head being turned is that they have heard or received information about you. Now this information might be true, it might be false. They might hear that you cheated on them. Maybe it was true, maybe it was false. But if they hear something like that, they are likely to get very angry, very upset, and often very ice cold. So when we consider point number 2, when we have to look at the possibilities of how somebody's head could be turned, one of those possibilities is that it's information about you. Like I said, it might be true, it might be false, but if they hear negative information about you, that is a very likely reason as for why they may have gone ice cold. So if you think that this or any of the other possibilities that I'm going to be mentioning in today's podcast does affect you and is your situation, then please let me know in the YouTube comments. Let me know if anything I've spoke about already or I'm about to speak about does relate to your story. Let me know in the YouTube comments about your situation and how this podcast relates to you and your breakup. So what about the other possibility? What about the other possibility of point number 2? Like I said, it's about their head being turned, the dumper's head being turned. The first element of this was information about you. But the second possibility of point number 2 is their head has been turned by another person. And unfortunately, this could mean another romantic interest. So maybe for whatever scenario possibility this took place, your ex has now seen somebody else that they are romantically interested in. Maybe this began before your relationship ended. Maybe this began very soon after the breakup took place. But unfortunately, this can result in your ex-dumper being very, very cold towards you because they are fully focusing on this new person. Now, the good news for you as a dumpee, if you want to try to get your ex back, is that most connections soon after a breakup do not last long term. They are often rebound relationships which end as quickly as they began. If you want to learn more about rebound relationships or other relationship dynamics, check out the playlists on my YouTube channel. Type in the search bar. I have many podcasts on rebound relationships and other breakup and relationship dating situations. But without meaning to dwell on rebounds for too much in today's podcast, the point is that if your ex has got into another connection with somebody new soon after your breakup, although they've been very cold to you right now, it's very unlikely this new relationship will last the test of time. It's more than likely it will end within a matter of months, and then who knows, if you do everything right as a dumpee, you may be able to reattract your dumper, your ex. You may easily, if they break up with their new connection, you may stand a great opportunity to speak with your ex again and possibly even get back into a relationship with them. If you do everything right as a dumpee, if your ex breaks up with a rebound, they're more than likely going to think of you because you probably didn't do too much wrong in the relationship. You might think you did nothing wrong. But if your dumper starts to think, well, this new connection didn't really work out, maybe I made a mistake, my dumpee has not done anything wrong or bad after the breakup, I'm starting to miss them, did I make the right choice? That is when you can begin to hear from them again. So, point number 2, the dumper's head has been turned. It's either information about you or it's by another person. But whatever the situation, you can rectify this. Nothing is guaranteed. We never know what the future holds. And even if your ex has heard bad information about you, if it's not true, there is every chance that as the future moves forward, they will find out the reality. And again, this could be when they contact you. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about why your dumper is ice cold. And point number 3 is this is their current reality. So once romantic emotional attraction has dropped, your ex, the dumper, is going to feel distant from you. So let's go back a bit. Let's imagine you're back at your happiest when you and your now former partner were in a long-lasting, loving relationship. You were both feeling a high level of romantic emotional attraction for each other at that time. Now, for whatever reason or reasons, unfortunately for you as a dumpee, your ex or dumper started to lose romantic emotional attraction for you. Now, when this hit the necessary low point, this is when in their mind, the relationship is over. As I've said a little bit early in today's podcast, we don't know what the future holds. And they may reflect on this and think it was a bad choice. But at the time, if the romantic emotional attraction drops too low, they want to end the relationship. They do not see a future. But the breakup hasn't yet taken place. So they're thinking of this in their mind, but there is a gap of time between deciding to end a relationship and actually actioning that breakup. Now, sometimes it might only be minutes, okay, but more often than not, it's going to be probably weeks or months where they do contemplate the decision and the choice. But during this time, they are likely feeling distant from you within their mindset. Now, some people can't hide that, and you might see that your ex was behaving in this way when you were together. But lots of dumpers can hide this. They can almost act, you might say. They try to act as warm as they ever did, but deep down inside, unfortunately, for now at least, the love has gone. So what does this mean? Well, what it means is that when they do action the breakup, they can go distant, ice cold, very, very quickly, because that is their current reality. Their current reality is ice cold. And over the last few weeks, maybe even months, they were almost acting to keep that warmth alive within your relationship. As I said, you might have seen the cracks anyway, but sometimes a dumper can act through that last period of time before the breakup. But then as soon as they action the breakup, guess what? Click of a finger, they go ice cold. That could be exactly why you're experiencing this right now. Let me know in YouTube comments if this relates to you. But this is their current reality. And what does that mean? Current realities are in the moment. Once upon a time, their current reality was they was in love with you. Now their current reality is they aren't in love with you. But what does this mean? It means in the future, their current reality could be in love with you again. I'm not trying to give you false hope. There is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back, and not every dumpee will be able to do this. But it does happen. Because we live in the moment, we speak in the moment, we feel in the moment. And this means that just because we don't feel love right now, it doesn't mean we can't in the future. But it also means if you are feeling love right now, it means the future isn't guaranteed for that either. You can never be complacent. Now, if you are a dumpee and you chase your ex, you make them feel guilty, bad, awful, all the things you might think they deserve. But if you make them feel this way after the breakup, do you think they're going to reflect positively on you? Or do you think they're going to think, you know what, I made the right choice? Ultimately, the way you behave as a dumpee will dictate the chances of whether you can reconnect one day in the future. Nothing is guaranteed. There is no paint-by-numbers advice to definitely get your ex back, but you can certainly increase your chances, or you can certainly decrease your chances. And if you want to increase your chances of success, consider my audio coaching service where me and you speak one-on-one. Go on my website, www.dateme.tips for more details. The good news is for you though, dumpees, is that if you do everything right, even if you don't get your ex back, you can find somebody even better. So it's win-win. You either get them back or you find somebody even better, as long as you are living your life in the right way, a positive way, moving forward, self-improvement, and living your life to the full. Always remember that with or without your ex, you will have a positive future. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.